Hey, thanks for joining us for another edition of Everything Football. I'm your host, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson. Uh, First and foremost, I want to say shout out to Ryan Shazier and hope the young man gets well. Definitely was a joy to watch. Intense linebacker. Watched him at Ohio State. Watched him his first couple of years there in the league. He was definitely coming on to being one of the top inside linebackers. And I'm not even concerned about the football aspect. Just want to be. I hope the young man is able to be able to get back to being with his family and friends, and and walking and everything like that. I don't know the severity of his injury. I know he went down with his head down, and that's an unfortunate thing that happens in the game. It's a violent game, but we got guys, they sign up for and everything. But I just kind of hope for the best for him, which is kind of parlaying off into what I'm getting ready to speak about now. Back in probably 1990, 91, the ESPN came out with the outside lines. Everybody pretty much know about what outside the lines is. Doing pieces on things outside of the sports, but things that are a lot deeper than sports, are things that make up or that can affect sports in that particular game that they're playing. And they were talking about the effects of that of the at the NFL players that would retire, and kind of how it was similar to guys coming back from like the Vietnam War, which everybody really wasn't a name for it back then, but now they call it uh, post traumatic stress, and and all these other different terms that they use for it now. Uh, One of the early people that was talking about trying to actually warn the NFL about this was a former player, former great, one of the probably top 10 tackles that ever played the game. Ron Mix, who played for the San Diego Chargers, who was actually a Hall of Famer, who ended up being he was a lawyer, and plus because of his intellect and whatnot, he just called him the intellectual assassin. He was one of the people that first started bringing out about the head trauma in the NFL. He was one of the first guys and one of the first players, former players, and not just some scrub guy. We're talking about a knowledgeable player, talking about an Hall of Famer and one of the greats in the game that was talking about this. So he started being like in workman's comp, talking about these defending these players because he was a lawyer defending players because it's workman's comp lawyer more or less. And I remember when he was talking about how the impact in all the years that would go on, it was equivalent to like running into that of a, let's say, a garage door. You had practice in the games and all this other type of stuff. And then once you played and the cheering's gone, and once the game is stopped, that would affect NFL football players. And as we've seen that, and this was like back in 1991 when I first saw this particular piece on Outside the Lines. And then as time would go on, because we were so used to the pageantry of the game, and those were the type of things that was reported obviously on NFL films and whatnot. But the insides and the nastiness of the game, this is when you start getting to the aspect of the drug culture and everything like that later on in the game. And I'm not talking about just per se recreational drugs. I'm talking about drugs as far as like the drugs that would keep these players going on, or they call them performance enhancing drugs or what have you. And we all know about the steroids, HGH, and stuff like that. But Ron Mix was one of the first players, one of the first people in the NFL, and a former player. And like again, not some scrub, but just some guy that got a axe to grind. We're talking about a former great player, one of the top tackles that ever played the game, that was speaking about what are we doing for these particular players when he started talking about workman's comp and everything. And this is one of the things that needs to be discussed. Uh, I don't think they want to talk about Ron Mix, like I said, one of the first players that I know of. And this is before Mike Ditka started this thing and all this kind of stuff. I think it didn't go over a lot because the guy was a lawyer or what have you. And then later on, uh, he was supposedly did jail time, something about fraud and all this other type of stuff that went on at a certain time. I don't know anything all about that, but at the same time, he was talking about NFL players and the different things that happen in the NFL due to the different injuries that you caught that would happen there. What is the NFL's saying about this? I'm like, Ron Mix needs to be somebody, and that's the funny part about a lot of this is because I don't hear a lot of ex-players, or it's not reported anyway, a lot of ex-players talking about what the NFL does. NFL is $1 billion a year business, and it needs to start doing things for these guys that have laid it out on the line. Now I go back to Ryan Shazier. He actually went there with his head down. Unfortunate incident, right? Then you had Juju Smith, and when he hits the Brissett hits the hit on him, and then later on with the safety that tries to dislodge the ball from that of Antonio Brown. I'm like, this is football, man. And these are hits that supposed to happen. When I came up, that stuff was all legal, right? Because the football is a game of intimidation, or it used to be a game of intimidation. Now I'll let you catch the ball. It used to be like, no, you dislodge the ball from him. As soon as his hands, his fingertips, his fingernails touch the ball, you try to knock his goddamn head off. That's how the game was played. And that's how the game still should be played. And it's like they're not trying to play it like that because everybody's trying to save ass. But when Ron Mix was trying to tell people about concussions and all this back in the day, nobody said anything about it. And then now they don't want to try to say anything. They don't want to talk about Ron Mix because, well, he was the fraud thing. In regard, I don't even know the ins and outs of that, but he already warned NFL, or was trying to tell NFL people about, look, y'all got to start doing something about these things here because it's not a normal thing. It's not a normal thing. And I understand about making the game safer. But it's only so much you can do. Really, you can hit a guy and his head can hit the turf. That's a concussion right there. Not that the actual hit made it, his head hitting the turf. Maybe if you played on grass. I don't know. But I'm like, those are things that Ron Mix is one of the unsung heroes in this game. That one of the people is talking about what needs to be done in this game. He's one of the few people that was talking about this long, and we're talking about 25, 26 years ago. We're talking a long time ago when Ron Mix brought this to his attention. I remember because I said, wow, I never looked at it that way. And I say that based on the fact that I played high school football. And I played against some guys that was good that went on to play college ball. And I remember going head up with guys that was 6'3", 6'4", 225 pounds. I was 5'5", 195 pounds. But I wasn't afraid to hit nothing. So it was like, and I remember going, as we used to call it back in the day, oh yeah, man, I went head up with it. Like two rams. We went head up. And I remember the silver flakes in front of my face. And I remember having a headache for the entire night. Into the entire night. The bus ride home. I spoke about this earlier on the earlier broadcast that I had. So he spoke about this way back, but nobody paid him any attention because the NFL never cared about paying attention because they were all about cashing in. NFL was brought up that on violence, the violent world of Sam Huff, way back in the latter part of the 50s, featured on Time magazine. Them guys that play ball, guys like Dick Night Train Lane, you dig up half these guys' brains and do something with their brains and whatever, you'll find out all them guys got CTE. Every last one of them. That's a part of the game. Much like if you go into NASCAR, them guys, the inevitability, it's inevitable for them guys that's going to get in a crash doing 200 miles an hour. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. 200 miles an hour, that's not natural when theoretically you're only supposed to be doing about 55, 60 miles an hour. These guys are doing 185, 190, 200 miles an hour and getting in turns. So it's inevitable for a crash to happen. What type of things are they doing for them? Keep the head still. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. But what can you really possibly really do? So in NFL football, it's the same concept. It's like we have to do certain things to make the game better. I understand that. But the violence is in the game. It's going to always be in the game. And don't be trying to penalize these guys or take money out of their pockets. And it sickens me When I sit up there and hear, be it John Gruden, or even from John Gruden to that of what's his name? Chris Collinsworth, who ironically enough, because one of the guys I'm about to mention, he actually played with. Reggie Williams, who's a linebacker who played on 2 Super Bowl teams, who was a good linebacker, one of the better linebackers for that franchise. Go look him up and see what the NFL has done for him, because you know once the NFL is done, they got 4 or 5 years of insurance on you, and that's it. These guys, and this is the workman's comp thing, it's like the injuries that these guys sustain is from 12, 13, 14 years of playing this game. They're playing this game at a high level. And when the game is over, said when they can no longer play anymore, the injuries are still there. Go look at Reggie Williams' knee. Go to YouTube. Look at his knee and what he had to do. And you only got 5 years worth of insurance. These guys got to come out of pocket from $1 billion a year, $1 billion a year thing that happens and goes on in the NFL. Business. This is a business. They need to look out for these guys. These guys built this thing here. Dale Sayers should never have to come out of his pocket for shit. Dick Buckus. None of these guys. Mike Singletary's. All these guys. Going down to your Ray Lewis. All these guys should never have to come. Even though Mike Singletary didn't make the money a Ray Lewis made. Nonetheless, these guys need to be compensated for, much like you do for the VA, for the veterans. So something needs to be done for these guys. Go look up Williams and look at how his knee looks. So somebody needs to do something about this, and NFL can do something about this, and they will not. But Ron Mix tried to bring this to people's attention years ago about this, and nobody never mentions to him or goes to talk to him. Now he's known as basically a fluke, only because, he had the fraud tax thing and all. I don't give 2 shits about that. I care about what he was trying to explain to people back in 1990, 91. Them guys, after these guys go into other career fields, they did not get injuries from that of being a lawyer or being that of a working at Disney. These are lasting effects that's going to be with them for years until the day that they die. And the NFL needs to do better in what it does. And they want to act like it doesn't. Now, we're trying to do this and we're trying to do that. But it's like, make the game better. Right? The game is going to be violent. And what happens is, it's like, I'm going to find you. I'm going to find you. Find you. I'm going to fine you if you hit this guy like this. Well, that's a part of the game. Let them play the game. And the NFL, once it's all over, said and done with, you take care of these guys. They can take care of some of themselves a little bit with some of the salaries they make because of, we got that. But these would be like a VA hospital or a place where these guys can go, because all them guys are not going to make 7 figures. All them guys are not going to have $13 million contracts. Some of these guys are going to make $100,000, $200,000 or $300,000 a year, if that. $80,000, $90,000 a year practice squad. You follow what I'm saying? So you need to still take care of these guys based on what they put on the line. The NFL, the Sabins made millions and millions, close to billions of dollars that they've made of the violence of football. Now they snub their nose at it and they're like, it doesn't. That's a nasty hit. That's this. I can't stand that. That's football. So play it. Yeah, okay, these guys got to learn to tackle better. Put your head on the side of them, come up to the side of them, put the head on the side. Wrap them up and go down with them. But don't try to act like, but either way it goes, it's going to still be that head type of trauma, the head trauma that comes along in the game. You follow? So these guys need to learn to do something about this. And they need to let these guys go ahead and play ball and help try to take care of these guys when it's all over, said and done with. Because a lot of these guys, some of them do commentary, some of them are reporters and whatnot. It's going to come, and you need to take care of them. Their way of like, are we trying to do all of this and finding these players? You can find these guys, and they're still playing. But guess what? They play for another 8, 9 years. You're going to still deal with them because something's going to happen with them. Have a safe haven for them. Don't try to take all the money out of their pockets now. Okay, make them, okay, we got to play this way. I get that, overstand that. But either way it goes, you need to try to make a safe haven for these guys when it's all over, said and done with. And don't cast them out like vagabonds when the damn game is over, when they no longer affect for the team that they play for, or they're nothing for the league anymore. These are things that need to be discussed and talked about. So like I said, so I really hope everything goes fine for Ryan Shazier, and people need to go look up Ron Mix, because he first started trying to talk about it and try to warn the NFL about what needs to be done. We need to do better things. And he said this damn near close to 30 years ago. He said this back in 1991. We're getting ready to go into 2018. And it's as if Ron Mix doesn't exist, but he exists because y'all know him as a player, for those that really know football history. But because he's in the workman comp business, and then the controversy behind him and tax fraud and all this kind of stuff, oh, we just sit him aside. No, you should have been taking him serious years ago, because he's trying to warn y'all about this. And we know it's a violent game, but at the same time, do something about it. You need to set up a place for these guys to go and whatnot. And I really hope that everything is fine with Ryan Shazier. I really hope the young man, everything goes fine with him. It's a violent game, but he needs to have a place to go and talk with and whatnot. Maybe if somebody like Junior Seau had a like they have a VA hospital for veterans, a VA have a NFL place for guys to come and say, look, man, talk about it. Screw all that macho bullshit. Talk to me. What's going on? You know what I'm saying? Andre Waters, Dave Durrison. These are things that need to be done. And the NFL don't want to do shit about it. And it sickens me as a fan of the game. Guys the NFL needs to do a better job. You check me out at Everything Football 62 at YouTube. Check me out Everything Football on Everything Football 62 on Ben 62 at Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. You guys have a good one. We'll come back with some other stuff a little bit later on. All right. Thank you.